All right, welcome to the home garage. I'm in it deep. So I wanted to update you. I kind of showed you the initial layout of all the screwdrivers and my first, I guess tool haul. I hate those. What do they call it when you get a clothing haul? Or you got a tool haul. No, I've freaking bought every single tool. So it's much more than that. So I'm very specifically, very calculatingly purchasing tools, and then the way that I process things is through catalog, spreadsheet, and then touching it. And then the ultimate would be then using it, putting it into practice, right? But you can't really put it into practice until you've done all the abstract. This is the part that people miss. This is the part that the mechanics of the world, or the people that actually use the tools every day, you forget that we're all sold, or you're sold a package at the end. So you're at the end of the chain. It's not to say the end of the chain is better or worse, but you're sort of getting marketed to. You're getting you're getting the processed information, and then you're ending up buying a Snap-on tool. And whoever processes the information best and makes it most digestible for you, those are generally the things that you get sold and you get told. And most people that have a tough job or have a tough career, you don't have any room for all of this work that goes into the processing of the information. So you're receiving processed information, and then you're making a choice from there. And so there are very few people like me that have the fortunate set of circumstances of all these things have lined up, have the right amount of education, the right amount of money, the right amount of desire, because I've spent a few hundred hours to get to the point I'm about to show you here, and I'm not even done, and then I have to put it into practice. So it takes a unique set of circumstances in order to sort of make these decisions and get to this point. And so that's my value proposition to the world, and I'm realizing I need to stop fighting the people that are getting the processed information, and start working with you. And I was just starting to mature and realize that people who say that I don't use tools and I'm not the right person to make this decision, you really don't understand what goes into all the processing the information. It's a lot of work. And what I found is that manufacturers haven't processed it right. They don't know how to do that. They know how to make the product. And so there needs to be somebody in between to actually digest all of this stuff and then put together a package of things that make sense. And so if you are on I would say a high-level purchaser of things, if you're a good shopper, you would do something like this: a nice, high-quality prefab solution from someone like Sonic. You would buy, a nice set of tools, where I would argue a Sonic of the world, the Sonic brands like Sonic, they're early into this, or they're newer, or they're more infant in their pursuit. And so to them, the screwdriver matters. When you have a company like Snap-on that's 100+ years old, the screwdriver is just the commodity. It's just the widget that they're selling and that they're able to attach margin to. That's been my experience. I've found that my wager is, and I've had this argument in the detailing world, that the car pros of the world are newer companies. There's a lot of passion attached to it. So if you were to go, let's say Car Pro had a corporate headquarters, you'd probably have a bunch of VW Golf Rs, you'd have BMW M3s, you'd have enthusiasts. So the parking lot would be lined with enthusiasts. If you go to the Turtle Wax parking lot, it's a bunch of 80,000-mile Toyota Camrys and minivans, because they're 80, 90 years removed from the original passion. And so that happens with pretty much every product. And so if you're a good shopper, you'd be able to sniff that out. You'd sniff out the Sun Joes of the world. You sniff out, what's the new one, Draft Tools, that are they have no passion. They're just trying to sell you something. So you have old companies that have lost the passion. You have new companies that are just doing it to fill a void or to grab market share. But then you have companies like Wera, Sonic, KTC. You have companies, sometimes the companies can be old, and if they maintain the passion, you can end up with a good result. And so to me, this is my snap judgment of the situation, being a good shopper of things, a good purchaser of things. I don't know that I'm a great user of the tool, but I'm certainly a good purchaser, a good shopping guy. I can sniff this out, and you can tell when there's a Klein Tools or a Wera Tools that there's still somebody there that drives a proverbial M3 to work because he loves what he does. He loves the tool. So if you're in the detailing world and you're not actually detailing your own cars, then you probably lost the passion. It's become more of a job. And the further and further and the generations removed from the original guy who started the original company, then it just becomes a company and becomes a revenue generator rather than a passion project. And so I think that oftentimes, we end up getting marketed. So the companies that are more mature have the ability, they know how to market better, and two, they have more money to market to you more specifically. When you have newer companies or more obscure companies that aren't even in the US, that have the clear passion behind the product, I think most of the times that's a little more difficult when you're being fed process information. And so what I'm attempting to do with Obsessed Garage is create a new way to process that information, because I frickin' love this stuff. And who knows, maybe someday I get rich and buy a private jet and I get removed from it, and then you have to go move on to somebody else, and I become one of those. I'm gonna fight that till my dying breath, I hope. But who knows what happens in life? You don't know. At this point in my life, we've been pretty successful. We have a new up-and-coming business, and I'm processing the information for myself. And then I found that the big epiphany with Obsessed Garage is if I process that information, for me, that there's some value in that, because you may want that process information as well. We've added fuel to that, because now if I buy all these screwdrivers, I may be able to then sell a bunch of screwdrivers to help pay for the stuff. So anyway, my thought process from the beginning was to buy tools. I wanted nice tools, and I've told this story 4 or 5 times now in the last few months. My original plan was always get the Snap-on truck guy to come to my house. Come to my house, I walk in every Friday, I buy some new tools, I build an arsenal of tools. Of course, I went onto the Snap-on truck 10 or 12 years ago and walked in there. I'm like, this stuff is not what I thought it was. And so here we are today. I found Sonic. Sold my old hand-me-down Craftsman stuff and hodgepodge of stuff here and there, and I've discovered Sonic. And I knew Sonic doesn't make the best screwdriver, the best ratchet, the best socket, the best pliers, the best everything. They make a nice grouping of tools that's about half the cost of what I think is an inferior set of tools, which would be the Snap-on stuff. And so I end up with a really nice put together package of tools, and then Sonic send me this giant catalog, and because I'm good at shopping for things, then I'm able to go through the catalog and then put together a package of tools. Some of the things that they miss is they don't do a really good job of, like, I want them all. Like, build me a complete set of foam inlays that fit a certain drawer with every tool, and they don't do that. I don't know why they don't do that. I guess they figure there aren't too many people like me that want to buy the whole set. And so that's been one of the frustrations, but also one of the opportunities that I've had. And so we've built out master collections where this is, I think, 21 drawers worth of tools. And so I've built it out and try to get as little redundancy as possible. But if I had carte blanche, I would put together my set of tools, and then I would build the foam inlays to hold the tools, instead of trying to figure out like a sort of hodgepodge of tools, putting it together in foam inlays. And so Wera has the same thing, has the same thing, not as nice as Sonic. Sonic owns the game of foam inlays. The others don't do nearly as good of a job, but I think it can still be done better, and then I want the option to buy a full master collection of tools. I think Sonic's argument is that hardly anybody's doing that, and so they make little packages of 3 or 4 or 5 drawers at a time. So my start, and I'm actually ahead of schedule where I thought I would get to. My original start was, I want to build an entire garage. So when I started making videos, and then I realized that there's an opportunity to take this shopping skill and then provide that value to everybody, I wanted to be able to do this thing. paint, light switches, lights, flooring, cabinets, audio, TVs, detailing supplies, pressure washing, vacuum system. So all the stuff, buckets, all these drawers are filled with something, microfiber towels. So the long-term plan was to be able to provide an end-to-end solution for the garage. And I knew that tools would come someday, but the end goal was to be able to curate and put together a grouping of tools using my shopping skills for myself. So all these drawers would lined with my favorite screwdrivers, my favorite pliers, my favorite dikes, my favorite T-handles, my favorite Allen keys. And the only way to do that, to find out what your favorite is you got to spend a lot of money to find out which is which. And so here we are today. I'm now working on screwdrivers. I like the Sonics. They're nice. Great. Way better than the Snap-ons. I actually just bought the Snap-ons. I have those to compare. I have some Kleins, I have some Craftsmans, I have, I need to find, I'm going to buy another set. Everybody keeps telling me to try out PB Swiss before I go full on. I'm going to reorder. I know I had a couple of PB Swisses. I may have given them away or something, and I may not have had the right ones. So, I've had dozens of different types of screwdrivers over the last few years, and so now I'm just tackling the screwdriver realm. And then everybody sort of knows, it's conventional wisdom, that Wera makes a great screwdriver, and so I bought every single one. And so you saw the video, we'll put a link in the description. I had all 517. I think I had 502 out here. There was like 12 more back at the garage that I brought over. It was 517 total. And then I sat here, and I didn't do this on camera, but kind of pulled and added and subtracted. And I came up with, this is 87 screwdrivers. Now I need to decide. I'm having a hard time with this. I'm going to have a hard time giving it up. So this isn't, again, it wasn't all their screwdrivers. I pulled out all the nut drivers. I pulled out all the torque stuff. So these are straight blades. And so you have 300 millimeters length. You have 250 millimeters in length. You have 200. You have 175, 150. And so you have the different lengths. And then, of course, you have the different size blades from 0.5 or 0.4 all the way up to roughly 2.0 in size, or a big fat blade here, 2.0. So you have different thicknesses, and you have different types of blades. For example, if you look at these two, here's a little bigger example. You have a tapered style blade, and then you have a straight blade where there's no taper, so that you can slide it in tighter areas. And so I'm having a hard time giving this up. Then you have stainless type blades, so stainless type, and then you have chisel type, which you can hammer through, and then you have type where you can put your wrench on it, and then you have rounded, and then of course you have the non-tapered, and then all the different sizes. And so now I'm having a hard time saying, well, which one do I want, and do I want all of these? Would I be willing to sacrifice 3 drawers worth of space to have all these screwdrivers? Which ones make sense? Now, I'm in love with the stainless screwdriver, but really the only reason to have a stainless is if you're using stainless fasteners, so you don't get cross-contamination. But theoretically, this stainless is softer than these hardened type screwdrivers. So I had actually pulled these out, and then I couldn't give them up, so I put them back in here. So this is very similar to what I've been doing most of my life when I sold home theater. Somebody has to decide what home theater product to buy, and then there's some subjectivity to it, like certain people like different sounds, and so I would have some. So let's say we had a whole store worth of products. The company I was working for curated the line of products that we sold, and then from there I curated it down to like a good, better, best, and then I would demo and show people depending on what they were looking for. So I'd ask them questions. I can't really do that as much on YouTube, and so I have to make a decision on what to do. But ultimately, as the salesperson, since I was the good shopper and had lots of experience, I was able to share that experience with people in a value subset, and then say, here's what I think you should get. And then try to separate them from as much money as possible. I mean, that's what you do when you're selling stuff. So then I did the same thing when I was in wealth management. I mean, somebody has to decide what investments to buy. And people would hire me for my expertise to say, you know, these are the mutual funds, these are the ETFs, these are the individual equities, these are the bonds, these are the whatever insurance bullcrap products that we're going to put this all together in a package. And then, you know, the more high level you get, the better you can structuring that to generate a decent return based on whatever set of circumstances matters the most to the person. And so we're doing the same thing with tools. Somebody has to decide it's this, and that screwdriver. That's the one. And then I'm going to do a basic, advanced, ultimate master collection. So what am I going to have in my cabinet, having sort of infinite resources for this particular place or this particular product? And then kind of narrow it down from there. What do you need? Like, what are the essentials? And so that's what I'm working on figuring out. So from here, what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to say, what is my final master collection? What straight blades do I want? What PH style Phillips blades do I want? What PZ style blades do I want in a normal screwdriver? And so to add extra complication to this, there are certain instances where, you know, I would be, so part of the way I went down from 87 or from 517 to 87 screwdrivers, and I'm not making those numbers up, those are the actual numbers of screwdrivers that I had out here, is like, for example, doing the small screwdriver. And then instead of doing the screwdrivers like this that are let's call them pre-configured or put together or like a normal screwdriver, instead of having hundreds of these, I've sort of narrowed it down to bits. And so we're going to do a bit style. And the reason, so the way that I made this decision was I use those type of screwdrivers all the time. I don't use these all the time. I don't use a VDE or an electrician style, and I probably we're going to use these very rarely. I just really like these. I think they look cool. And so I don't do a lot of electrical work. Mike does for me, and so really Mike will be the one using these, but I love to have them. And so because there's only so much space, and not so much my cabinets, but most cabinets of the people that I'm going to be providing value to, you don't have room to fit all this stuff. But if we had a nice little foam inlay, we could tackle having all types of straight Torx, all types of different tips, and do it in an insert bit type. So I have two screwdriver handles. I could aggregate and put these much closer together. This here would have taken up 2 drawers worth of space if I'd done screwdrivers and then narrowed down to bits. But when it comes to a straight blade screwdriver, I mean, I didn't want to do a bit style. I wanted to do the regular screwdriver. And so I've had to kind of make these decisions for myself. The other thing I learned is that I love the idea of the electronic discharge type, where these are, you know, sort of grounded out, if you will. And so what I learned is that the ESD part is in the handle, not in the tip. And so the tips are the same on the greens versus the yellows, just say that, on the non-electronic and the electronic style. So what I can do is just buy 2 handles and 1 set of bits, and that narrows down my space as well. They don't do a chip lifter, and so I would keep a chip lifter, I think. And what I'll probably actually do is do the yellow chip lifter, so that way, because they're the same, I'd have the electronic discharge version, which is a little bit more money, and then I can narrow that down to 1 tool. I like to have these little gasket picks were nice, and so I'll probably keep those. And I do find myself using these all the time, which are hose clamp removal tools as well. I like those. And so I'm trying to figure out, and then what I'll do is I'll figure out how would I lay this out in foam in different size drawers. And so the other thing I'm going to do is, you know, I love T-handles, but look at what T-handles do. They take up so much freaking space. So I got 2 solidly sized drawers for these, not a whole lot of tools. So, you know, I've got a lot of extra space that I'm using for this T-handle stuff that I don't even know that I'm going to use all that much. And so instead, this is where, to me, it makes sense. One, I get ratcheting function, and then I can take and put bits. And actually, they make different size bits. I just placed my second order. They make these in 50 millimeters, 89 millimeters, and 152 millimeters. And so what I also realized, again, is that the electronic discharge type handle uses the same bit. Same thing with regular screwdrivers, uses the same bit. So what I can do is build a drawer where I have different types of screwdriver handles and then have a single set of bits. And many of you that don't use screwdrivers all the time, or you don't care so much about this, you could actually end up eliminating all of these screwdrivers and just do a more sort of mechanical style screwdriver. The thing I don't love about bit types is this. Let me just show you. Like, I don't like this type of flat. So I'm sure this functions just fine. But this has so much purpose to it, a regular flat bladed screwdriver. And so this to me is not a great direct replacement, or not a great replacement for what would be a normal screwdriver. And so as you get your tool set, so if I was starting out, I would buy more of this kind of thing, more universal, especially if I don't have a lot of cabinets and I'm putting this in my kitchen drawer or something like that. And so again, I'm going to build this out where you have different types of options. Maybe this becomes a luxury where I have, this is a ratcheting type. And I'm also trying to figure out what am I willing to give up. This would obviously be a significant luxury unless you're an electrician. And if you were an electrician, I probably wouldn't even do the bits. I would probably do the full screwdrivers. And you probably don't even need all of these. You would know exactly what you need. Because I don't know exactly what I need, because I'm doing all kinds of random stuff, I like having more tools than I probably will ever use. But the concept here is to solve my space constraints, but still appease the fact that I want to have a great, PZ2 or PZ3 type Phillips type screwdriver. So in just going through these different tools, so you have the ratcheting T-handle, which I love. You have the bit or socket type T-handle, which is the 411 ARA. And then for these little guys, what I'm going to do, these aren't the correct ones, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up buying their bit sets. So all the Milwaukee stuff I bought, I'll probably end up punting. And so these bits go into your stubby. I can have essentially 50 different stubby screwdrivers by having the interchangeable thing. And then they also make screwdrivers where the handle pops open and you have the bits. I don't like those at all. I don't like those combination type screwdrivers. I never have. And so for me, none of those made the cut. But I do love having, you have a small handle, you have a larger handle, you have the XL sized handle, you have the mini handle, you have the right angle handle. Now this one they only make in the bit type, so I'm sort of torn on whether I'm going to do this or not. I just don't like that. I don't know, it makes the handle not as sturdy. It's not my favorite option to have the bits that come out the thing like this. Just not my favorite. But I don't think, I need to do a little more digging. I don't think they make this right-angled one in a non-bit type. So I'm going to figure that out. And so imagine having a drawer like this with all the different types of bits set up. Same thing. This threw me for a loop. Is the this impact type screwdriver. So again, the advantage of these, the Craftform 900 series, is that you have the shaft runs all the way through the handle, then they mold the handle around it, and so you can hammer and chisel on this. So they make this in a locking, so it basically functions the same as this. They have different bits that you can choose, or unlocking where you can hammer it and it's an impact type. So if you have like a rusted up or a locked on type fastener. So this becomes a question like, do I really need this? Versus just using this tool. So for most people, I think the Essentials kit is going to include something like this for the people that love having the combination and the option. again, knowing fair well that I'm probably not going to use both, and I'm probably not going to use both very often, and you'll probably pick one that you have a preference over. But to me, having this organized in a drawer is going to be freaking fantastic. So once I pick all this stuff, then I'm going to go on to Knipex and Hazette and all that stuff, and then I may find that some of the Hazette may replace some of this stuff, and then at the end of this big multiple $100,000 ordered project, I come up with some subset of solutions. So I'm not sure about this. So this is the stainless version, because I planned on doing the stainless universal instead of the stainless individuals, but then I kind of fell back in love with the stainless individuals, so I'm going to have to sleep on this and figure out what I like the most in the future. These things are great. Their L keys are nice. Maybe make a suggestion in the comments. Is there, like, who makes the best L key? Or who makes the best? I mean, the Weras seem pretty nice. I'd be willing to bet probably somebody makes something a little bit nicer. So let me know if you have anything there. These I like a lot, a unique tool. So this is another example of, shopping for stuff is, we obviously don't need the 1000 volt. These are the VDE style. They only make them in 4 sizes, but I do like the handle, and I like the comfortability of the handle more than the raw type Joker. So doing the 6004 VDEs over the 6004 is something that makes sense to me. Pay the extra couple of bucks to get these, but they don't make the VDE in the XL and the double XL size, and so I've basically made my own little kit here. These things are pretty sweet. I showed these in the last video, how they work, and that they lock onto bolts and nuts really uniquely. And so it becomes an adjustable wrench that is much more stable and sturdy and much more functional than a normal crescent wrench or adjustable wrench. Stuff like this is cool, where this becomes a ratchet extension, so you can get more leverage on a 1/2 inch. So although I'm not a huge fan of the ratcheting or the Wera ratchets in general, they're base ratchets, I don't think they're going to make the cut. I do think that having the Cyclops, so see how this works, where you pull the handle down, you can lock it in upright. So if we put, say, an extension on here, pull this down, push that in, it locks on nicely. They do things like having this, so you can kind of hold and leverage the thing, and it'll still spin. But you have the option to lock it at 90 degrees, lock it at 15 degrees, lock it at, I guess this would be 90 degrees or 180 degrees, however you want to say it. And you can kind of come all the way around with this. I don't think that this would become your ratchet of choice, but this is a new take on a ratchet that sometimes you may grab. Like the Sonic one, I've always disliked this. So here's Sonic's version, where it doesn't lock in place, so I find that it's not this is always you end up using this ratchet when your other ratchet kind of ends up where you don't remember where you left it in the car somewhere, and whereas this could be a purpose-used ratchet that goes in your ratchet arsenal and would complement whatever ratchets you choose. I do really like their locking, this sort of red and green option for locking on a socket. I think it's a pretty interesting take on how this would work. So let's see if this functions here. I wonder if this only works with their sockets, which I'm not in love with their sockets. So that may dictate, this may dictate that we don't. Let's see here. So green means go, red means stop, right? So when I put this in place, oh, you just have to push it harder. I do like how it doesn't automatically lock, but I don't like how hard you have to push that thing. Interesting. But like I'm saying, this doesn't become my everyday ratchet. It's too bulky, it's too heavy, but something that I think might be interesting to have in my toolkit here. So we'll see if that makes the cut. Put this back. These things also allow us to take and add a bit to to our, a socket style bit holder. I do like the bit holders a lot. Let's see what else is interesting here that I've been playing with. These little guys are kind of cool, and so you need a special type of socket for these, which I just ordered those, versus these little, or you have like the bit holder types, where you could put a little small bit on here. So having these little unique tools, I think, are interesting. We'll decide if they make the cut or not, and then having some of their bit type holders are pretty interesting too. They do a stainless and non-stainless version, so I just need to kind of narrow that stuff down, working through all that. And so the thought process would be, I'll commingle this with, I got to work on these tools more, but like the Nepros line, I guess I need to make. I keep showing this, like this type of adjustable wrench. So maybe you complement. So you have one of these. They only make one size, and this goes with the jokers, and then maybe some Knipex makes something else that looks kind of like it as well. I bought the Nepros screwdrivers. These are really cool, really interesting, really pretty, but I don't think I would ever grab this over one of those. I don't know. These are the things I need to figure out. Whereas I would think that these would be my choice of long double box end. The tool checks are also interesting. So narrowing this down into what I would want in my cabinet is what then dictates the offering. If I can figure out a way to get this, and if I can't, so this is where I'm gonna, hopefully figure out how to make this work. So let's say that I can't sell this tool. Let's say that I can't convince them to let me buy these and sell it. But this is the long handled 1/2-inch ratchet that I want in my tool arsenal. And maybe we have some Wera stuff, have some Hazet stuff, have some Stahlville stuff, have stuff from all over the world, Gador. We put it all together, have some Koken sockets, maybe like the Koken sockets more than the Nepro sockets, and we put it all together, and I can't sell this. Well, then I would just send you a link here. Go buy this wherever you need to buy it from. We'll make the foam inlays that we have set up with an empty spot, and you buy it, put it in there, buy it on your own. Maybe I can get some sort of affiliate link or something. And then over time, if I sell enough of them, I'm sure they'll let me do it. But I'm gonna fight that fight. So the long-term plan is to go through all these tools, continue to share with you what I'm finding, figure out what I like the most, and then I'm going to build packages. And so once I figure out what the tools are, I'm going to start making my own foam inlays with all different brands in the foam inlay. And then when we adjust the foam inlay, hopefully we can make the foam inlays economical enough that you could throw the foam inlay away, buy the new tool. So we find some new ratchet or new socket or something, we want to add it to our foam inlay. I would have new foam inlay CNC'd, and then from that point forward, that would be the new foam inlay for the new tool set. And then you would just take your foam inlay out for $50, buy the new one, and you can get the new tool and stay up to date with whatever Facom tool or whatever, whatever USAG or whatever tool we end up with that fits the spot. So that's where I'm at with Wera. So I'm about done with Wera. I'm gonna place my order. I already built the spreadsheet for Hazet, so I'm gonna place my Hazet order on all the things that I have a real interest in. I'm gonna narrow these screwdrivers down or not. So I'm gonna make my decision there on how that's gonna look. I've kind of been leaving these sit here, and I've just been staring at them every time I come in and I start moving them around again. And so I'm gonna narrow that down and figure out what makes sense for my drawer, and then I'll share that knowledge with you and build it in the Obsessed Garage store, so that way you can then build your drawers some version or something similar if that's something that makes sense. So if you have any suggestions of tools I should be looking at, let me know. A lot of you send me suggestions, and sometimes I look at them like, it just doesn't interest me. So, that's requisite number one. I have to get excited about it. It has to be interesting to me, and some stuff just isn't interesting. As much as I don't like the Snap-on stuff, it's really interesting to me, so I'm putting my money up because I want to check that box. I want to understand it, and so the only best way for me to understand it is to waste a bunch of money. And then what I've become pretty good at is the shopping for things, but then good at figuring out how to get out from underneath all the shopping I've done. And that usually involves me doing some sort of fire sale deal, and then somebody gets hooked up. That's what I've been doing on the extra Wera stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully people will support me in this when it's all said and done to help pay for these all these tools that I'm buying. I'm pretty confident that just the sheer amount of work that I'm doing, the only reason I'm doing the work is because nobody else has really done it the way I'd like it to be done. And so if it already existed, that I wouldn't be heading down this path. You know, there's lots of great retailers of tools, but there really aren't many curators of tools, and at least not the way that I would want it curated. Reading reviews on Amazon and stuff like that is not the way to do it. That doesn't help me at all. So we did the same thing with pressure washing, same thing with detailing, same thing with lights, same thing with cabinets, same thing with flooring, same thing with cars, same thing with everything. And I can keep doing this formula because I tell you what, I'm having a blast doing it. So thanks for your support, and as always, stay tuned for more crazy. This project's gonna cost me a lot of money. Hopefully at the end of it, I can recoup some of that. Worst case scenario, I end up with a lot of really, really cool tools. And the way that I stay sane is that I don't keep all this stuff. As I figure out what I don't like, I get rid of it, sell it at fire sale. So always stay tuned for finding good fire sale, Mormon fire sale deals on things. We'll see you on the next video.